So last night, during the Super Bowl, Netflix had an ad on that advertised that they would be releasing the sequel to Cloverfield, and it would be immediately available after the Super Bowl was over on Netflix. They call this the Cloverfield Paradox, and so I decided to check it out early this morning, and I've got to say I wasn't too impressed. Um, the thing that was cool about Cloverfield, the original, was that it was different, and that they filmed a sci-fi slash monster movie from the perspective of a guy with a camcorder, right? A little handy cam. And that's what I think was really special about Cloverfield. And obviously this one was filmed completely different. It was basically like your average sci-fi film. The way that it was filmed, the way the plot unraveled, it was, I don't know, it was mediocre at best, to be honest. The story, I didn't think was that strong, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if this was like already a movie all on its own that had nothing to do with Cloverfield whatsoever, and that they just slapped the Cloverfield label on it and like added that little monster scene at the end, because otherwise it could be a completely standalone movie. And I don't know, it just feels like it would stand on its own. It doesn't really feel like it's a part of the same world, to be honest. Anyway, the plot here is that the Earth is in an energy crisis, and there's a new way that we've found that we could possibly create enough energy for the entire world and not have to worry about energy anymore. And so we have to send this space station up to basically get this energy source running. It's some sort of particle accelerator, and that's supposed to solve everything. So they go up. Let's say, okay, the main character is this woman, and she has lost her children to a fire that was her fault. And she's very depressed. She's very sad. Her and her husband both. She thinks this is something she can do, though. You know, she's an astronaut of some sort, and she works with this energy source of the space station. And they ask her to go up on this space station and work on this project to try to bring energy back to the Earth. It's supposed to be a couple months in space working on this, get it going, boom, Earth is saved, right? It ends up taking several years for them to get it right. They're up there, they're working on it, it keeps failing. So one time they finally, they think they got it right. It's starting to work. This energy source is starting to power up, and then all of a sudden there's, you know, some loud booms and bangs and crashes, and it collapses, right? And the space station is damaged. They don't know what's wrong, but they soon discover that they have created a paradox, that they are actually in another dimension. And things get really wacky after that. Really strange things start happening, and I thought they got really, really silly with it. It could have been done a lot more serious, cool science fiction kind of way, but they did these weird things, like where this guy gets his arm sucked into a wall, and then his arm is just gone. His arm's gone. They don't know what happened to it, but then later in the movie, they find his arm, and it's flopping around on the floor, and it's still alive, and then they actually figure out what to do to get out of this paradox that they've created, to get out of this other dimension, where there is another Earth exactly like ours, but different things are happening on it. And the arm, the limb, flopping around, writes them a message to tell them what to do next, that gives them what they need to figure things out. The silliness ruined it for me. Like, as soon as this paradox happened, and the first couple things. The first thing that happened was like, it was like scary jump scene. It was something really strange, really sci-fi, really creepy, right? Alien-like. You don't know what's going on. But then it just got more and more ridiculous as it went on with the arm thing, and then they had worms that were, for experiments or something on the space station. These worms disappeared. They didn't know what happened to them. Then all of a sudden they're inside of a guy. All of the worms were inside of a guy. It was ridiculous. So yeah, I wasn't a big fan. Wasn't a big fan of this thing. This is the perfect example of what I was talking about on my last video, where I was talking about a show that could have a really great premise, a really great idea, and then just ruin it completely. The idea of somehow creating some sort of paradox and warping to another dimension that is parallel to ours, that's great for science fiction. They ruined it with all of this silly stuff. So yeah, I was kind of excited when I heard about it during the Super Bowl yesterday, or right after is when I heard about it. I was excited to check it out today, but I feared that it wouldn't be that great, and I was right. It really didn't end up being that great. Like I said, it felt like it was another movie completely, and they just slapped the Cloverfield label on it and threw a monster at the end and said, oh, this is all part of the same world, and this is why the events in Cloverfield happened. This is why the monsters are here, because they created this paradox, and some beings from other dimensions that don't belong here ended up here. And I get it. I just didn't really like it.